What time is it?
10:30.
It's 10:30. It's Wednesday. We're in Founders Forum. Spencer's here. I'm here. It can only mean one thing. It's the Spen and Nick Show. So welcome. You may not be watching this at 10:30 on a Wednesday. In fact, you're almost certainly not watching it at 10:30 on a Wednesday. But all the same, welcome. This week we're talking about product thinking. Spencer, what is product thinking and why is it important?
Great. So I think over the last few years, there's been this rising trend about the importance of product and product management, product design, really understanding your customers in order to solve their problems. A lot of the things that we've talked about over the last few episodes, actually probably all episodes, have kind of been around this idea of solving problems that customers need in order to make sure your business is going to work really well. Now, I want to kind of explore that even further and take that idea of the importance of product much, much further. So this rise of the importance of product management and product design is happening, but it's happening in pockets in businesses at the moment. You have a product manager who leads on the kind of roadmap and the prioritization of features and understands customer problems. You have a designer and a UX designer and a UX researcher who focus on, again, those customer problems, making sure you're solving them and making delightful things for your customers to buy. But actually, I think it's much more widespread, and it needs to be, and this idea of product thinking and taking some of those concepts, methodologies, approaches, mindsets of product people all the way across every function of every single business. I cannot think of a single job. You can test me. We can try and put this to the test in a minute. I can't think of a single job where taking some of those concepts that we're doing all the time around design and product thinking, and design thinking, and being able to use that in your job, I think is something really useful, regardless of any job that you do. Honestly, can't think of a single job.
Can we come back to this for sure? Because I think this will really help. But because I want to talk about sharing business model canvases of businesses with everybody in the business, so they understand the business better.
Yeah,
so I'd like to talk about that.
I think you're absolutely right. But it's not just about sharing; it's about including everyone in the process of creating it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Really, I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
But let's come back to that. What I'd like to talk about a little bit is the Venn diagram that you talked about of product thinking, so that we can really help everyone understand what it is that you mean by it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and again, I'm going to go back one small step to figure out, just to really clarify our thinking about what product is. Because actually, people talk about products and services quite often. When I talk about product, I'm thinking of anything that you sell as a business in order to create value for people and brings in money for you as an organization. That could be selling your services, consultancy, it could be selling your software, it could be selling a widget to a B2B, to a business or to an individual consumer, whatever. Your product is anything that you sell as an organization that hopefully brings in profit, but also that helps your customers with the problems that they have, right? So that's what I say a product is. Forget the kind of product service definition, whatever. So that's the most important thing. And for me then, the really important things around that product are that you have to, it's the intersection, or product thinking for me is the intersection of design, technology, and business. And so we've talked about this Venn diagram before, where the business side of it is all about viability, but it's also about things like understanding your customer and your marketing and making sure that the thing that you buy translates to a customer really well. That's definitely a lot of business thinking and business focus on that side of it. The design side of it, of course, is designing the experience that you want people to go through. It could be designing business model, canvas, value proposition design, designing the actual graphics, the logos, the brand, all of that stuff, of course, is in design. But actually, much more holistically about the experience that you want customers to go through, that's something which can be designed. And then the third element of the technology isn't necessarily the software that you're building, but it's actually the mechanism that you go through, the processes that you go through, and the tools that you use in order to actually physically make that product. And again, even if it's service, I think you can broadly say technology is around the specialisms that you have as an individual person, that makes you unique or as a business makes you unique and makes it valuable. So you still have to design those aspects. You still have to make sure it's viable and fit for the customer. And at the center of all of this is people, your users, and also, so that's on the customer facing side, but also at the center of it is good leadership. And I think there's a load of stuff around transferable skills with leadership that are really important across product. So I think product is, again, it's something that touches on every aspect of a business. It's important for marketing. It's important for, obviously, product development. It's important for engineers, technical people. It's important for your sales team to really understand your product and your customers really well. It's important for the business, operations people, finance people, so that they really understand why money's coming in or not coming in and what it is that they can do in order to collaborate really effectively and smoothly across a whole organisation.
And so we were just talking about this before, which is Peter Thiel's question of what is the one important truth that you believe that most people disagree with you on. And your truth is that everyone in the world needs product thinking to be able to be successful and to thrive in the world of work.
I do, yeah. I totally believe that. And I'm sure there's going to be a whole load of people that are listening that completely disagree with this.
Haters, there's loads of haters.
There's a load of haters.
All these haters listening.
Bring it on. Bring on the haters. With this one, like, the more I think about it, the more depth I go into in maybe justifying this position, right? The more I think it's true. And maybe I'm just confirming my own bias. That's totally understandable, but it happens. There's a couple of things, though, firstly, which is I've been thinking about that question since I first heard it, however many years ago, and I haven't been able to figure out what the one thing is that I really believe that nobody else does. And I think this is it. It's like, and it's weird how this has been on the tip of my tongue, this idea has been on the tip of my tongue for so many years. I've been thinking and talking about it for so long, but actually not defining it as like, I think everyone needs to know product. And I think that kind of hard line is a really important thing because actually that can fuel debate and conversation, which is what we're trying to do with this. But yeah, I'll tell you a few reasons why I do think it's really important. One is that, as I've just explained, I think product is something that everybody in an organisation needs to understand. And even if you think of really big organisations, some of those big organisations that have gone out of business recently, maybe because their people didn't understand really what it was, what the value was of that organisation and what they were really selling, and therefore they weren't able to innovate well enough, they weren't able to service their customers in a good enough way. And I've also seen some amazing stories of people right on the front line of big organisations that are doing things beyond what they would expect of their role. Of people in Tesco's helping people with their shopping because their Monzo card didn't work. Of these things like that person really understands that customer, really understands what service they're offering. Not that doesn't understand every single product that Tesco offers, but understands what their role in that organisation is. And I think that's an amazing place, an amazing attitude and mindset to take. But there's another really key element which I haven't actually discussed with you yet, so I'm interested to see what your thoughts are.
Okay.
I think that anything, firstly, I believe that anything can be prototyped. Absolutely anything can be prototyped. In fact, I believe that so strongly that I often don't know what I'm thinking until I prototype something. So I remember listening to someone talking about how they write, and they write as a way to process their thoughts. And they only know what they're thinking when they're writing. I only know what I'm thinking when I'm designing or when I'm modelling in a spreadsheet or when I'm doing some kind of prototype thing which manifests in a physical thing. That could be a slide deck. It could be a physical prototype. It could be something stuck together with blue tack and tape. It could be a model on a spreadsheet. But that's the way that I think. And I think through talking as well. And I would almost consider this as a prototype of this principle of product thinking for me. That makes sense. So trying to articulate it and bring it out and like let it fit in my mind and so we can have that conversation.
And I think the source of that, of writing being a tool for thinking, so you don't really know what you're thinking or what you're going to say until you start trying to write, that came from, I believe, the University of Chicago professor who has a fantastic YouTube video on how to write. So that might have been the one, because I think this is something that we discussed
I think you're right. Yeah.
a good few months ago.
Yeah. So that's the first point here, is I believe anything can be prototyped. And in order to prototype something, that really is about understanding product, understanding the problem that you've got as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
It's about manifesting that in some kind of tangible product type form,
Mm-hmm.
building something, right? And the second thing that I believe is that we can actually prototype ourselves. We can
Mhm.
design our lives. There's a great book by two guys from Stanford, Bill Burnett and somebody else, can't remember the other guy's name. It's called Designing Your Life, and they're just about to release another one called Design Your Work Life. And this is all about taking kind of the concepts of design and design thinking, design mindsets, and applying that to designing our personal, private, and work lives. And so I think that you can prototype your careers and design what you want to be, what you want to do longer term. Now the interesting thing here is when you add that concept of prototyping your career to this another idea. I'm throwing out a load of concepts here. You get a lot of bang for your buck. Something again that we've talked about a lot, which is ikigai. This idea of like Japanese kind of concept for understanding your purpose in life, which is the combination of 4 intersecting circles. As a Venn diagram, it's what you love. So what you love doing, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. And the intersection is that kind of combination of both purpose and profit, if you like, or making money because the world needs it. The difficulty with that, it's a beautiful thing, it's a beautiful visualization, but the real difficulty is you don't know what you're good at or what you like if you've never explored. So this is again where that product thinking mindset of experimentation, of testing ideas, of producing prototypes helps you to figure out what you can do in the future. Now we know, as we found out in the last couple of episodes, that it's a billion people that are going to need to radically upskill in the next few years. Right? If they have this product thinking mindset and they can apply it to their own lives and they can apply it to the actual work that they're doing, they're going to be in a such better position to weather the storm of uncertainty and to make sure that they aren't disrupted out of the workforce. I think it's a hugely powerful concept, and I think that there's so much transferable from the product world to general applicable transferable skills that is something that everybody needs.
So I think we're pretty sure on what you're talking about. I think the Venn diagram, the 3 circles are really helpful. And I think we understand why it's important as well now, because like we've got to help people. There's 1 billion people. Whatever the answer is 1 billion.
Exactly.
So we've got 1 billion people. I'd like to talk a little bit about examples for each one of those 3 circles. So maybe can I start with one for the business one?
Lovely.
Maybe you want to add on top.
So examples of tools and techniques in order
maybe I'm not understanding it, but I'll give an example. Okay. So for the first one is that people have to understand the business side of things. Yeah. Right. What is that? What the circle was called? What was that circle?
Yeah,
called?
business. Yeah.
So one thing that I used to do was in a company that we used to work together at, I would, just because I thought it was a useful thing to do and helpful for people coming into the company, I would show them what the business model canvas was for the company. And they all, as soon as they joined the company, they'd find it very useful because they could get up and running very quickly, because it was 9 boxes that showed exactly how the company works. And there was one person that I didn't manage to show for 6 months. And then I got the chance to sit down with them and show them the business model canvas for the business. And they said, oh my God, I didn't have a clue what the business was doing, but now I understand because you've shown me this.
Yeah.
And so how many organisations around the world have employees that have been there for years that really don't understand how the business works? And so being able to articulate how the business works and also understand how their role works within it can help them be much more effective. But equally, as you were saying with the Tesco example, can help them really add to it more.
Yeah.
So therefore, teaching everyone the business model canvas, I think, is in itself a valuable tool, and that fits nicely in one of those circles. So if you've got examples that, maybe another example of a business one or not, but certainly if you've got examples of the design and the technology circles, so that we can really put this into context for people.
Yeah, I'll give you first a design one. And this is taking the ideas of UX design and UX research, so user experience design, user experience research, to understand your customers, and maybe elements of things like jobs to be done that we've talked about previously as well. And that's this, I think, an old kind of adage, this belief that the closer you are to your customers, the better understanding you have of your customers' pains, really empathizing with them, the better the more chance you stand of making sure that the product is going to be fit and that you're going to stay in business. So I'm part of doing a program called Y Combinator Summer School at the moment. So I kind of join up with a few people every week. We have conversation about how our business is doing. And one of the biggest metrics that they assess throughout this 8-week period is how many customers have you spoken to. So they ask you these standard questions every week. How many customers you spoke to this week? And their belief is that the closer you are to the customers, the more conversations you have with customers, the more likely you are to succeed, right? So, and I think that I believe that to be true, but I think if you speak to anyone in a senior leadership position in an organisation that's grown to the point where they have a senior leadership kind of team, they will all say, "Oh, I wish I could speak to customers more often. I know I should be doing it, but I'm not doing it. I don't have the time to be doing it." But actually, if they went out of their way and had a half an hour conversation with the customer directly, in order to understand those pain points so that they can problem solve much better and so that they can design better features and so that they can make sure their marketing is working or any element of that business, then it's going to be a super valuable thing. So understanding how to do user research, understanding the importance of it, understanding how that can apply or how that can be translated into design work for your product is a really important thing to be doing.
I think absolutely. I think Amazon Jeff Bezos is a good example because he had his email. What is it, Jeff@Amazon.com?
Yeah.
That if you email that, you get a direct line to him.
Yeah.
And that's how he keeps in touch with all the customers.
Amazing,
so
right?
He's able to keep in the loop, which definitely brilliant.
Yeah.
So can you give? That makes sense to me. Can you give me an example of a technology one?
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about like SaaS business, so software business just for the time being. And what I think is an important differentiation to make is that I'm not expecting everyone to be a great coder. I'm not expecting everyone in an organisation to be able to jump into the code base, start making features and starting writing production level code. That's not what we're talking about here. What I'm talking about is understanding enough so that you can have a good conversation, okay? Because we've all seen that there can be a breakdown between very technical people and non-technical people. There's often this gap of understanding, of communication, of empathizing with the difficulties. I've definitely felt it myself where I've had developers that are working on my products and sometimes you say something and they take it so literally, and it's not because of like they are a certain type of person, it's just because you've said something and then they want to build that thing that you've said, right? So actually if you can understand the terminology much better, if you can understand what's possible, what's feasible, then you're much more likely to be able to have a better working relationship internally. Also build features that don't take forever to build. So again, another example of this, of just not quite understanding that landscape of my technical people, have been where I remember asking a developer to kind of truncate some text. So I wanted some text I wanted to type in a whole load of text, but it only show 1 or 2 or 3 lines of text in the kind of space that I had in my app. So I said, I just want, I want to be able to change this so that it has a ... at the end. It only shows the first 2 or 3 lines. And they spent 2 or 3 days on it. And I'm like, what is going wrong with this? Why is this so hard to do? I was like, how's that feature coming along with the truncated text? It was like, yeah, if you just asked for like 1 line, that would have been really easy. I was like, what? 1 line's fine. 1 line would be perfectly fine. Like, I'm not that bothered about how many exactly the amount of lines. I just don't want it to be this massive box that never ends, full of text. Just that little understanding of it's much easier to write this code for 1 line of truncated text rather than 2 lines of text would have saved us so much time.
It's
so
crazy,
just that little bit
crazy,
of knowledge, like it's probably, and we're talking money here, right? So every delay like that is going to be a delay that you're not being able to bring in income. It's a delay that you can't push new features.
So what specifically would you recommend? So does that mean that everyone should learn HTML and CSS? Or what does that actually practically involve in terms of learning? Does it just mean that you spend an hour a week reading up on this stuff?
No, I think there's elements of, so for me the syntax is not the important thing. So the HTML or the JavaScript or the Python code, that's not the important thing. The important thing is understanding how technology people, how developers problem solve with code, right? So that's one of the most important things, and understanding the terminology that they're using, getting familiar with things like ways of working, like agile, like sprints, like like velocity of feature design and feature build, so how quickly people can build stuff. All of that stuff's really important. Understanding that just because you're a developer doesn't necessarily mean you know the full stack of development, that you may specialize on back end and you may specialize on front end. So it's not about understanding the syntax, it's more about understanding the roles and the specialities that people have, and making sure that they're doing the best work that suits them is a really important thing. So more about the kind of leadership and the management of development teams, and getting onto that same page of conversation. Now, there is one important thing that I think is super, super useful here as well, which is that I don't think that processes should happen in isolation. We talked about it a bit with the business model canvas just now, where don't just share a business model canvas, get people to actually do the business model canvas. I think that's a really good thing we should take into a lot of different worlds, right, in a lot of different areas, where there should be developers that are involved in user research, in getting to understand those pain points that people have. There should be designers that are pairing with a developer, sitting next to them, getting the developer to talk through what they're doing with the code. And again, it's not about the syntax, it's understanding how their mind is working and how they're solving the problem that you've given them to do. So it's really understanding that cadence and understanding how people work. Pairing on things that are completely disparate, seeming like they're completely disparate teams and not connected, means that you're going to collaborate much more effectively. And a lot of this is about collaboration and communication.
And what about the technology circle in relation to non-app-based companies?
Yeah, I'd say that. So, technology or technical skills are needed in every business, in every walk of life. You know, my previous existence was as a teacher, and the technical skills in that field were understanding how people learn, kind of pedagogic principles. So again, the ways, the art and the science of how people learn, understanding your subject knowledge, your domain area expertise really, really well. And so that was what I mean about the technical or technology.
Oh, okay, so it's not it could be more technical than technology.
Technology.
It could be technical and
I think
technology.
this is an interesting one. This is probably where maybe that model starts to break a little bit, but and maybe I'm being liberal with how we can stretch out that box to fulfill non-technology companies. But I do think there's a terminology change that we need to have. But it's something about the actual building of the service or the product that you're doing, that you're putting into the world, is an important thing.
Okay. I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I think you've been quite fluent on this. Is there anything else that you want to add?
Everyone should do it. And I guess it's easy for me to say. It's really hard to put into practice. But what I'm really interested in is what's the smallest thing that you can do in order to start to use some of these concepts. Yeah. And so this is what we're trying to do with Future Builders, is we're not looking for people that want to go on a 9-month product development course or even a full day of like UX design. I want to get people interested to the point where it sparks their curiosity to want to know more. And for us, that curiosity is so important. And so if you start to go, well, you know, what happened if I had a conversation with someone about my career? How could you prototype that? How could you figure out whether sampling something is going to be helpful? I think it's starting small, and it's coming back to that idea of you don't know what you don't know. You don't often know what you're going to be good at or what you're going to enjoy until you've experimented, until you've played around with something. So what we're trying to do is give people the freedom and the access to be able to experiment with careers and with products in a way which is safe and means they're going to learn. Learning is probably one of the most important things that people can go through, and learning is a key fundamental part of the whole product thinking landscape.
So if people are interested in this, they should probably sign up to Future Builders email newsletter.
Yeah.
And kind of keep in touch with how you guys can help them with that process.
Yeah, definitely. There's a newsletter coming out very soon. We're going to kickstart that properly. We've been holding off a little bit for it just to make sure that we've got all the product in the right place to start with. There's a whole load of playlists already on Future Builders around this idea of product management, strategy, product thinking in its broadest sense. So you can go and learn a whole load of stuff around there. And I think the other thing is to really figure out the other thing is to really understand that if you're not constantly changing, then really you're moving backwards. And it's the same for businesses going through transformation and change as individuals that need to go through transformation and change. We know that people are going to have far more careers over the next few years than they've previously had. I think the median lifespan in an organisation for one job now is about 3 years for people aged 24 to 34-ish. So we're about in there, that category, right? Just about.
I'm in.
I'm there or thereabouts. So only about 2-3 years, whereas someone in their 60s has probably been in the job for maybe 10 years, and the median around that age group is about 10 years. So we know that people are going to be switching jobs much more frequently. I also believe that the age of the generalist is coming through. So previously, the most important thing for people to do was have a super deep specialism. I don't believe that that's the case anymore. Having multiple specialisms is good. Having general skills is really, really important. I class this product thinking as those general skills that then you can go deep into. So general skills, general product thinking skills, general soft skill development, but through a hard skill angle, and then you go deep into the kind of area that really resonates with you once you've explored and experimented with some different aspects of it. I don't think I answered your question. I went off.
No, you did, but then you took it somewhere else. But you answered it. That was the key thing. So I think we should leave it there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you think about this concept of, I'm interested to know your opinion on this, because I think that I talked to a couple of people about it yesterday that were really blank faces or like quite challenging about whether this is a real thing. I'm interested to know your thoughts because we're in this bubble.
In the words of a good friend of ours, Corey, I think it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Nice.
It's a no-brainer. Because what you want is engaged, passionate, happy employees.
Yeah.
And a business needs to understand its product, it needs to understand its customers, and it needs to make sure that it has a viable, feasible, and desirable business model.
Yeah.
And the way that you get that is by getting everyone in the business singing from the same hymn sheet. And what you're saying is you're creating that hymn sheet and the skills around that. Or if it was, I don't know why I'm using an American football kind of analogy. But they've got their playbook, and so what you're doing is you're making sure everyone knows what the playbook is, everyone's adding to the playbook, and also everyone is learning the skills that enables them to be able to deliver the playbook on the pitch. So it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So a couple of things to finish off. So product thinking is an important mindset, an important thing to learn, because you're going to develop loads of transferable skills that are going to be useful and applicable in any line of work in the future. I truly believe that. I think some of the most adaptable people and some of the most curious people that enjoy their work the most are actually product people and people that work around innovation and design and kind of product. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is that for a lot of people, product management, product design is only a growing industry. It's definitely increasing. It's just emerging. It's like a new kind of industry, a new line of work really that really didn't exist a few years ago. And we're going to see more of these new industries and new lines of work happening over the next few years. But product is only going to grow. So for people that want to go really specialists into certain areas of product, there's going to be loads and loads of opportunities. So that's another thing. And I think stay curious, stay happy, stay healthy.
Stay learning.
Stay learning.
There you go.
Infinite learning.
I think it reminds me of Alan Wick, how he ends his podcast.
Okay, what's that?
Which is what Steve Jobs was: stay hungry, stay foolish.
Right.
I think, is that right?
I think so, yeah.
I think I might have said it wrong, but Alan Wicks changed that slightly. I think it's stay hungry, stay learning.
Okay.
So it's a nice way to finish
Nice way
this
to finish.
podcast.
Alan, we love you.
We do. So thank you everyone for listening. If you've liked it, please like it. Do us a favour, maybe subscribe as well. That would be amazing. But I think that's it for this week. Anything else you want to say? Last
No,
words.
thank you so much. Let's
Brilliant.
do this.
Perfect.